Hello and welcome to this edition of Reality Check Conversations. I'm Tanya Trivoni. Today I'm speaking with Carl Sargent. Carl is a senior partner with World Class Productivity, otherwise known as WCP. And WCP is a partner of the Canadian Management Centre in the delivery of project management training and consulting. You can read more about Carl's background using the link below this video. And today we want to talk about project management, project leadership, and what does it look like during this pandemic, and what are we learning, and how might we reshape the way that we view this moving forward? Carl, thank you for joining the conversation.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate being here. It's a real opportunity, so thank you, Tanya, for having me.
Great, that's wonderful. So you and I have had a few conversations now, and we've been talking about the kind of lessons that are coming out during this time for leaders, for project leaders, and how that might be evolving the way we think about the way we approach work and the way that we manage projects. I'm curious what you're seeing right now, what leaders are, the thought process they're going through, and how this might impact the way we manage projects moving forward post-pandemic.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I think the world has come together to fight against this, invisible enemy that we're facing. And it brings me to thinking about, there's only really three things we can do when we meet another human or we meet, adversity. And that's compete, collaborate, or walk away. And when we get into competition and walk away, that's our innate response. We have that fight or flight response. I've heard people talking about, us thinking with the amygdala and things like that. But it's the collaborative efforts out there that are really making the difference. The frontline workers that are being able to collaborate, different associations coming together to help each other. That's the kind of thing I think we need more of as we get back to business. Which really kind of ties it down to three key points for me. I think post-pandemic, or what I would call the new norm, because I really don't think I want to go back to the old way of doing things. I want the new norm. And it comes back to vision, mission, values, strategy in the organization developed around those. To me, the second piece of that is how do we really bring people together so that they can tie themselves to that strategy, each and every day, and then how are we really measuring that we've got that success that we need? Because I think we still need to know that we are making a difference and we are getting the success. And, looking at the pandemic, there's been a lot of different measures put together to help us understand whether we're on the right track or not. And it all depends on how you use those numbers to get, the results that you get. So I think it comes down to those three things: compete, collaborate, walk away. And then how do we put them back into business through vision, mission, values, that type of thing.
Yeah, and I love that you started with setting the context around the collaboration piece, because I know when we were talking, we were just, I think, marveling at what organizations have been able to do by virtue of collaborating in a new way, whether we're talking about technologically or medically, companies that have been able to pivot. So with that in the background, I wonder what we can carry forward as it relates to how we're setting the vision, how we're connecting people to it. And defining what success looks like. So I'm wondering if you can provide a little more detail about each of those three.
Yeah, sure. I mean, if you look at the vision, mission, strategy, let's just summarize that and say we have a common goal. And it's very clear in this pandemic, we have a common goal: defeat the virus. And it's coming together to do that, putting our energy into things that enable us to do that. We look at how fast online platforms like we're on right now have grown, and people have put their energy into doing what they can do individually towards that common goal. So you're either serving the common goal or serving somebody who's serving the common goal, enabling people to be able to work more effectively together. So I think as we get back to the new way of doing business, organizations need to be able to share that strategy wider and broader. make sure that they're spending the time to help each employee, each individual really understand, why do we exist? What's our common goal together? And then every project that gets put together to move the business forward should be vetted against that vision, mission, strategy to make sure that that project is going to deliver, what they're looking for. So building a more robust video conferencing platform, why are you doing that? Well, that enables our workers to be able to focus on our customer. So it's that big question, why is that happening with the vision and mission? I think also workers, I think we have to build that empathy response, and that's something else I've seen in the pandemic. We can really have empathy for somebody else because we're going through it ourselves, and we really understand what it's like to walk in somebody else's shoes going through this. So as we look at that empathetic response in business, that builds trust. So really understanding our employees and our core teams to build that trust, so that when we have to make decisions with less information because we're going to be moving faster and faster, we can look at that decision and say it was the best decision that was made at the time, and looking for the positive things that are coming out of that. One of the things that I learned way back in high school was yes-anding, yes and. So how can I grow that idea that person has brought to the table, instead of saying yes but, maybe more of a yes and. Helping people make decisions with less information. We're not going to have all the information in the new regime, the new world, whatever we want to call it, post-pandemic. I really don't believe we are. And then I think, the final thing is, if we look at life as it is, pre-COVID-19, what were we measuring? And were we really measuring the right things? I had a conversation with an employee that was serving an internal business that is actually serving an external client. And I asked him what his measures were, and he says, well, as long as my internal client meets their KPIs, their key performance indicators, critical success factors, then I'm doing a good job. And I just thought, well, how do you know that internal client is meeting their critical success factors, and how do you know that that's moving, your external customer into the future, and these measures are still correct? Hard to answer that question. So that kind of made me think, are we measuring the right things? As a quick example, let's say, I'm being measured for head count, and let's say I've got a numeric quota on my spend. And I have, maybe a head count of 10 people, and I've got the 10 people, but I've got some extra money that I could hire another employee, but I'm blocked because now I've got my head count full. And a project comes along that requires an employee to be put onto that project. Well, now I can't hire the employee because of the head count numbers. So these measures that let's say stifle the growth in parts of the organization, I believe really need to be looked at, so that we can look at measuring collaboration. And that's a very difficult thing to do, because how do I know that my help to somebody else made them do a more effective job? And why should I get credit for that, right? So it's almost swinging over to crediting the team, paying attention to teamwork. Companies like Lego have done some work around that to get to more team. A couple other companies that I've worked with have also been shifting their measurements towards, how do I get to measuring collaboration so that I can grow the business? Collaboration builds relationships. Competition, it still creates energy in our projects, but it can also erode relationships. And internal competition does that, in my opinion, fairly quickly. So I think we have to move toward more of a collaborative environment.
There's so much that I could say about what you just shared. That last piece around collaboration, I think, is really key because, and I know you started out talking about it at the beginning, it is challenging in the world of performance management and measurement to have KPIs even that are operating that are measuring things at the team level. But I think when you look at what we've been able to achieve through collaboration during this time, I think there's really kind of no option but to go in that direction. And we've also been pressed to consider what we thought were the constraints to what was possible during this time. So things that we thought we couldn't do, whether it's around our measures or whether it's around the goals that we set, have all been tested during this time. So I love all of that. So thank you so much for your insights. I did have a final question for you. I'm curious about your observations during this time, whether it's something positive that you've noticed coming out of this COVID experience or something that you're particularly grateful for right now, if you'd be willing to share that with us.
Sure, thanks. I heard it said early on, this will bring out the very best in people and it will bring out the very worst in people. And I think we've seen both ends of the spectrum, the very best in individuals and the very worst in individuals. And then there's maybe the rest of us that are in between. I think what I'm really grateful for and what I've seen is for individuals like yourself and others that are out there listening, seeking to understand, doing the best job that we can in order to, serve others. Albert Einstein said, life in the servitude of others is a life worth living. I believe that was him that said that. Maybe not a direct quote, but I think that's what I'm really grateful for. The opportunity to be able to help other people, the opportunity for other people reaching out to help each other, seeing the world kind of come together. And I'm seeing a little bit more better than I was worse. And I think you really have to beat the bushes for the better stuff, because the negative stuff's out there and we all can see that easily. It's kind of hard to see the good stuff. So I'm really grateful for that. And thank you again for this opportunity.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for your time and your insights and for sharing so openly. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And this wraps up another edition of Reality Check Conversations. If you enjoyed this video, please take a moment to share it with friends and colleagues and take a moment to subscribe to our channel. Thank you for watching and have a great rest of day.